So here's something that happened in my office about 3 months ago. A patient of mine, a 68-year-old retired firefighter named George, comes in for his regular heart checkup. Everything looks good. Blood pressure steady. Heart rhythm nice and regular. We're wrapping up. And then, almost as an afterthought, he says, "Hey, Doc, can I ask you something kind of weird?" I said, "Sure, George. What's on your mind?" He goes, "My urine's been foamy lately, like really foamy. Is that a thing?" Now, I'm a cardiologist, been one for 25 years, treated over 15,000 heart patients. But here's something a lot of people don't realize. Your heart and your kidneys, they're basically best friends. What affects one often affects the other. So when George asked me about foamy urine, I didn't brush it off. I paid attention. And it's a good thing I did, because what we discovered that day changed the direction of George's care entirely.
That's what I want to talk about with you today. If you've noticed foam or bubbles in your urine, and you've been wondering whether it means something, you're in the right place. Let's figure this out together. Now, you might be thinking, wait, you're a heart doctor. Why are you talking about urine? Fair question. Here's the thing. After 25 years of practice, I've learned that the body doesn't work in separate compartments. It's all connected. Your kidneys filter your blood. Your heart pumps that blood. When the kidneys start struggling, the heart feels it. When the heart struggles, the kidneys feel it too. We call this the cardiorenal connection, and it's one of the most important relationships in your body. So when something shows up in your urine, it often gives us clues about what's happening in your cardiovascular system. That's why I pay attention to these things. And that's why you should, too. I'm not here to scare you, by the way. Most of the time, foamy urine isn't an emergency. But it is worth understanding, because sometimes it's your body's way of sending you a message. And the earlier you listen, the better. Okay, let me start with something reassuring. A few bubbles in your urine? Totally normal. Seriously, if you pee with a bit of force and you see some bubbles that disappear in a few seconds, that's just physics. Air gets mixed in. Bubbles form. They pop. No big deal. What we're paying attention to is different. I'm talking about foam that sticks around. Thick, almost like the head on a beer. The kind that's still there when you come back a minute later. That's the kind that might be telling you something. Now, I don't want you to panic every time you use the bathroom. That's not the goal here. The goal is awareness. Knowing the difference between, that's just bubbles, and, that looks different than usual. Because that awareness, it's what helps you catch things early. Let me tell you about another patient. Her name was Linda. Linda was 71, came to me because her primary doctor noticed something on her blood work that suggested her heart might be working a little too hard. So she got referred to me. When I started asking questions, she mentioned, almost casually, that her urine had been foamy for months. She thought it was her new toilet cleaner. It wasn't. We tested her urine, and it turned out Linda had something called proteinuria. Basically, protein leaking into her urine. Now here's what you need to know about protein. It's not supposed to be there. Not in any significant amount. Your kidneys are designed to keep it in your blood where it belongs. When protein starts showing up in your urine, it often means the kidney's filtering system isn't working quite right. Something slipping through that shouldn't be. And this matters for heart health too, because proteinuria, is often linked to high blood pressure, diabetes, and other conditions that put stress on your cardiovascular system. For Linda, catching this early meant we could work with her nephrologist, that's a kidney specialist, to get ahead of it, adjusting her blood pressure medication, keeping a closer eye on things. She's doing well now, but I often think, what if she hadn't mentioned the foam? What if she'd just assumed it was the toilet cleaner? Worth paying attention to.
Okay, this next one is a big one. Diabetes. You know, diabetes is the #1 cause of kidney disease in this country. And I can tell you from experience, it affects the heart just as much as it affects the kidneys. Here's what happens. When blood sugar stays high for too long, it starts to damage small blood vessels throughout your body, including the tiny blood vessels in your kidneys. When those get damaged, they start leaking. And one of the things that leaks out is protein, which shows up as, you guessed it, foamy urine. I had a patient named Richard, 65, came to see me for chest discomfort. Turned out his heart was fine, but during our workup, we discovered his blood sugar was elevated. He had no idea. When I asked about any changes he'd noticed in his body, he mentioned the foamy urine. He'd been seeing it for about 6 months. Thought it was just, aging. It wasn't. That foam was his body's early warning system, telling him his blood sugar was causing damage. Now, I want to be clear. Not everyone with foamy urine has diabetes, and not everyone with diabetes has foamy urine. But there's enough of a connection that it's worth checking. If you haven't had your blood sugar tested recently, this might be a good reason to ask your doctor about it. Can I be real with you for a second? I didn't learn any of this in medical school. I learned the science, the mechanisms, the pathophysiology. But what I didn't learn was how to really listen when patients mention these small, everyday things. Foamy urine. Feeling a little more tired than usual. Ankles that are a bit swollen by evening. For years, early in my career, I'd hear these things and think, yeah, that's probably nothing. Let's focus on the big stuff. But the longer I practice, the more I realize the small stuff often leads to the big stuff. And the patients who do best are the ones who pay attention early. So if you're watching this because you noticed something and you thought, is this worth looking into? The answer is yes. It's always worth looking into. That's not me trying to worry you. That's me telling you that your instinct to pay attention is a good one. All right, let me tell you about cause number 3, and this one might surprise you. Urinary tract infections, UTIs. Now, when most people think of UTIs, they think of burning, urgency, running to the bathroom every 5 minutes. And yes, those are classic symptoms. But foamy urine, that can be part of the picture too. Here's what happens. When you have an infection in your urinary tract, your body sends white blood cells to fight it off. There's also bacteria, mucus, all sorts of stuff going on in there. This mixture can sometimes cause your urine to look foamy or cloudy. I had a patient, Dorothy, who came in for a follow-up after a heart procedure. She mentioned, almost embarrassed, that her urine had been looking strange, foamy, a bit cloudy, and it had an unusual smell. We tested her, and sure enough, UTI. Now here's the important part. UTIs are very treatable.
Usually just a course of antibiotics and you're good.
But if they keep coming back, or if they go untreated and travel up to the kidneys, that can cause bigger problems down the road, including kidney damage that affects your heart health. So if you're seeing foamy urine along with other symptoms, like discomfort when you urinate, needing to go more often, or just feeling off, it's worth getting checked. Easy to treat. Just don't ignore it. Okay, this next one is interesting, because it's actually good news. Dehydration. Yes, not drinking enough water can cause foamy urine, and it's one of the more common and more fixable causes. Let me tell you about Frank. Frank was 70, active guy, walked 3 miles every morning, lifted weights twice a week, very health conscious. He came to see me worried because he'd noticed foam in his urine, and he'd been reading about kidney disease online. He was convinced something was seriously wrong. So we talked. We did some tests, and you know what we found? Frank was dehydrated. He was exercising regularly, sweating a lot, and only drinking about 30 ounces of water a day. Not nearly enough for how active he was. When you're dehydrated, your urine becomes concentrated. More stuff in less water. And when you have concentrated urine hitting the toilet with force, it can create foam. We adjusted his water intake. Within a week, the foam was gone. Now, I don't want you to just assume dehydration is your answer and move on. But it's worth trying as a first step. Drink more water for a few days. See if things change. If the foam goes away, great. Mystery solved. If it doesn't, that's when you want to check in with your doctor. And since we're on the topic, let me address the water question. How much should you actually be drinking? Here's my honest answer. It depends. For most generally healthy adults, somewhere between 2 and 3 liters a day is a good target. That's roughly 8 to 12 cups. But here's where it gets individual. If you have heart failure, your doctor might have you on a fluid restriction. Same if you have advanced kidney disease or certain lung conditions. In those cases, drinking too much can actually cause problems. So my advice? Ask your doctor what's right for you, and pay attention to your body. If your urine is dark yellow and concentrated, you probably need more water. If it's light yellow, almost clear, you're probably doing fine. Simple, but it works. All right, this last one is going to make you smile, because it's not medical at all. Toilet bowl cleaner. I'm serious. Those blue discs, the bleach tabs, the fancy cleaning gels, they have surfactants in them, chemicals that stabilize bubbles. So when your urine hits the toilet water, it creates foam. Not because of anything in your urine, because of what's in your toilet. I've had patients come to me genuinely worried, thinking something was wrong with their kidneys, and it turned out they'd just switched to a new toilet cleaner. Now, I'm not telling you to assume this is the answer and ignore everything else. Please don't do that. But it's worth ruling out. Here's a simple test. Use a different bathroom, a friend's house, a public restroom, somewhere without that cleaner. If the foam disappears, mystery solved. If it's still there, okay, then we keep investigating. But at least you'll know. I want to come back to something I mentioned earlier. The connection between your heart and your kidneys. Because this is really important, and I don't think enough people understand it. Your heart pumps blood. Your kidneys filter that blood. When one of them isn't working well, the other has to work harder. High blood pressure, for example. It's hard on both your heart and your kidneys.
Uncontrolled diabetes? Same thing. And here's what I find fascinating. Sometimes the kidneys show signs of trouble before the heart does. Foamy urine can be one of those early signs. That's why, as a cardiologist, I never dismiss kidney symptoms. They're often giving me clues about what's happening in the whole system. So when you come to me with questions about your heart, don't be surprised if I ask about your urine, about swelling in your ankles, about how often you're getting up at night to use the bathroom. It's all connected. And the more information we have, the better we can take care of you. So, let's talk about when to take action. If you're seeing persistent foam in your urine, the kind that sticks around, I'd encourage you to bring it up with your doctor. Not because it's definitely something serious, but because it's worth checking. Here's what your doctor might do. First, a urinalysis. This is a simple urine test that can show if there's protein, blood, signs of infection, or other abnormalities. Second, they might check your blood sugar, especially if you haven't had it tested in a while. Third, they might look at your kidney function with a blood test. This usually includes something called creatinine, and BUN, which stands for blood urea nitrogen. These are simple tests that show how well your kidneys are filtering waste from your blood. And if you have any other symptoms, things like swelling in your legs, unusual fatigue, changes in how much you're urinating, definitely mention those too. The key is, don't wait until it becomes a bigger issue. Early detection gives us options. Now, I need to mention a few things that fall into the category of, please take this seriously. If you have foamy urine, along with significant swelling in your face, legs, or feet, that's something to address quickly. It could indicate your kidneys are struggling to do their job. If you're seeing blood in your urine, or if it looks dark or tea-colored, that's also worth getting checked promptly. If you're experiencing severe fatigue, confusion, nausea, or difficulty breathing, along with urinary changes, please don't wait. Contact your doctor or seek medical care. And if you're already being treated for kidney disease or heart failure, and you notice changes, let your care team know. This isn't about panicking. It's about paying attention and responding appropriately. Your body sends signals. The best thing you can do is listen. One thing I want to emphasize. Whatever you discover about your health, please work with your doctor to address it. If you're on medication, keep taking it as prescribed. Don't stop or change anything without talking to your healthcare team first. If your doctor recommends tests or follow-up appointments, try to follow through. These things matter. And if something doesn't feel right, speak up. You know your body better than anyone. If you feel like you're not being heard, it's okay to ask more questions or seek a second opinion. Healthcare works best as a partnership. You bring the knowledge of your own body. Your doctor brings medical expertise. Together, you figure out the best path forward. That's how it should work. All right, let me leave you with some practical steps. First, pay attention. Next time you use the bathroom, take a moment to look. No need to obsess over it, just notice what's there. Second, stay hydrated. Make sure you're drinking enough water for your body and activity level. This alone solves the issue for many people. Third, if you're seeing persistent foam, mention it to your doctor at your next visit, or call and ask if it's worth coming in sooner. Fourth, keep up with your regular checkups. Blood sugar, blood pressure, kidney function. These routine tests catch things early. And fifth, don't panic. Most of the time, foamy urine has a simple explanation. The goal isn't to worry, the goal is to understand.
You know, I've been a cardiologist for 25 years now, and one of the things I've learned is that the body is always communicating. Sometimes loudly, sometimes in whispers. Foamy urine is one of those whispers. It might mean nothing. It might mean something worth addressing. The people who do best, in my experience, are the ones who listen, who don't dismiss the small things, who bring their questions to their doctors, even when they feel a little silly. George, the retired firefighter I mentioned at the beginning, he's doing great now. We caught something early because he asked a question. Linda? She's managing her proteinuria beautifully because she mentioned the foam. Richard? His blood sugar is under control because he paid attention. These aren't dramatic stories. They're ordinary people who listened to their bodies and took action. That's what I hope for you, too. If you found this helpful, I'd appreciate it if you considered subscribing to the channel. It helps me reach more people who might benefit from this information. And if you know someone who's mentioned noticing foam in their urine, maybe share this video with them. It might give them the information they need. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I genuinely appreciate it. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.